Congress and the White House now gearing up for their next battle over spending and tax cuts. What's the timeline? And what's the risk of a government shutdown? Let's bring in Professor Brenberg, joining us right now, the chair of the program in business and finance at the King's College in Manhattan. Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
Realistically, when do we see tax reform?
I do think they can get tax reform done by the end of the year because I think they're going to scale this plan back. They were talking about a very big tax reform package earlier in the year. With the defeat of the health care bill, they're going to scale that back. They're going to go for a tax cut. It's going to be smaller, more focused on the middle class and businesses, and I think they can get that done by the end of the year. They want the win so that they can move on to some of their other priorities.
Let's talk about the new fight over the government spending bill. So they only have about a dozen legislative work days before April 28th. They have the 2-week recess next month. So will they avoid the government shutdown?
Neither party can really afford to be seen as being responsible for a government shutdown. You don't win when you're seen to be responsible, and especially the Republicans, given what happened with the health care bill. I don't think they're going to make a big fight out of this. I don't think they're going to put a lot of the so-called poison pill type pieces of legislation into this in order to stall it. They want to get done with it because they've been saying tax reform is our priority. They don't want this to hold up tax reform. It could be a big loss for Republicans if they're seen as the ones who are shutting the government down.
But then the next battle is raising the debt limit.
Yeah,
that's the later battle this
yeah,
fall.
That's going to be a little bit later this fall. Again, I really think it's unlikely Republicans are going to want to derail the centerpiece here, tax reform. They need a win this year because they're going to want to be able to do things next year. If you don't get tax reform done this year, it makes it very hard to pursue anything in 2018. I think they're going to try to focus. You've heard the president talk about this. He's going to get more involved. He wants to focus. We want to get tax reform done. I think it's going to be like a laser when it comes to tax reform.
I think he's doing a good job. You think these things, some of this will go through?
Yeah, well, I think the president can learn. I think the health care process was really eye-opening for him. He saw just how focused he needs to be, how involved he needs to be. You're seeing him come out of the gate on tax reform now, much more focused. The whole administration is really talking that way. So I do think he's learning. He wants to get this done, and so I think that actually is going to help them get it done by the end of the year.
Yeah, and he's learning that governing is pretty difficult, especially when there's factions within your own party.
Yes, even when your party is in control of the House and the Senate, it's very difficult to get things done. It really is. But look, he's learning. He said he's learned something from it. That's good, and so I think he's going to take that forward as they think about tax reform. He has to stay focused. He saw that with this last bill. I think he's going to bring that to bear on tax reform.
Macroeconomics. Talk about the trade deals. He constantly is working on the trade deals that he says are terrible.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement on that again until tax reform gets done. I think the message from the White House is going to be we need to get tax reform done. Everything depends on the credibility from that happening because we lost some with health care. So behind the scenes, they're going to be thinking about trade, but really I would be very shocked if they did anything significant on trade until they dealt with tax reform.
The healthcare failure adding incentive to cut my taxes right now. Professor Brenberg, chair of the program in business and finance at the King's College right here in New York City. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.